Hey guys. All right, let's get rolling, please. Let's get settled down. So, again, you do not need to fill in anything on this very brief. I'm going to wait until it is nice and quiet in here so I know that everyone is listening to me. So, you do not need to fill in anything on here. I do want you to listen and ask any questions that you have. I am. Yes. So, like I said, what you just did, you had a very basic example of what classification or the study of classification, guys, is known as taxonomy. So you just showed that you have the capability of understanding taxonomy. All right? Now, what I want you to understand today is that taxonomy or classification of living organisms is based on the evidences for evolution that we have done. All right? So, similar structures. DNA, how similar their DNA is. All right? Transitional species. So, taxonomists take all of that information and then they put them into certain groupings based on these characteristics. You guys have classification, like I said. Every day you use classification. How many of you have iPods? I'm assuming most have some sort of iPod or music contraption. Your iPod, guys, is organized by this very similar classification scheme that scientists use to classify living organisms. All right? So if your first screen that you come to, you have a few different choices. You have music, you have artists, you have games, you may have whatever. But then when you click on one of those subtopics, it narrows it down. So if you click on artists, or let's say you click on music, it'll narrow it down to artists. And then when you click on artists, it will narrow it down to an album. When you click on an album, it narrows it down to a specific song. All right? That is exactly what the classification system in science does. Same thing, but instead of using music, you're using living organisms. So it says classification is putting things into groups based on similarities. You use classification organizing your dresser, closet, CD booklets. I don't think people even use CD booklets anymore. I made this 2 years ago. Yeah. Still, I know. It's on the edge there. All right. Cracked you up, huh? CDs are so out of date. Man. So, as far as classification scheme in science goes, you are going to notice there are some terms up here that you are going to have to know and understand. And they are these: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. These relate back to, guys, the iPod example that I talked about, where you may click on music. That is the biggest, largest topic. That would be a kingdom. Then when you click on music, it narrows it down to artists. That could be phylum. When you click on artists, it narrows it down to albums, which would be class. When you click on albums, it narrows it down to songs. So you're seeing as it narrows down, it gets more specific. This is how the classification system in science works as well. But instead of using, music, artists, albums, songs, we use kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I got it down. I've been studying this stuff forever here. Those are terms you are going to have to know. All right, so I'm going to give you some hints on how to memorize these in a little bit. What's up, Thomas?
Can I go to the back?
Sure. So scientists use classification to organize organisms into groups, just like what you did with your little fake alien pictures. So these groupings show how related organisms are. So if we're looking at this screen here, or at this picture here, we have common name. It says human. We have the Canadian goose. We have a lake darner, which is an insect, and we have a mosquito. Based on looking at their kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species, which two organisms do you think are the most closely related? Why would you say that? So I think a bunch of people just said the lake darner and the mosquito are most closely related. What makes you say that?
But
All right, fantastic. So you're noticing, guys, that if we're narrowing out these two organisms, we can see that they share the same kingdom, they share the same phylum, they share the same class, but then from there, they don't share anything else as far as order, family, genus, and species go. If we're comparing the human and the Canadian goose, they share the same kingdom, they share the same phylum, but it stops there. So therefore, the more categories or the more classification levels that organisms share, the more closely related they are. Okay? So which two are most closely related? We just talked about that, the lake darner and the mosquito. Now, if I put another organism up here, let's say I'm going to put up a chimpanzee. Chimpanzee, guys, is going to share the same kingdom, phylum, class, order as the human. So therefore, those two would be most closely related. If I were to put up a black bear and a grizzly bear, they would share the same kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, but share different species. So those are really closely related. All right? So the more levels of classification they share, the more closely related they are. Remember, when I say more closely related, that goes back to our evidences for evolution. That goes back to DNA. That goes back to homologous structures. All right, so how similar their characteristics are. So any questions so far on the classification levels? All right, now let me ask you this. Based on looking at this picture here, what is the scientific name of humans? All right, I think most people say just Homo sapiens. Good. So based on knowing that humans, their scientific name is Homo sapiens, what two levels of the classification system do you put together to make the scientific name? Genus and species. So Homo sapiens is the humans. What is the Canadian goose scientific name?
Ranta canadensis.
Yep, Ranta canadensis.
Does Canada have anything to do with the species name?
Yes, they're originally from Canada. Yeah, no, it's a legit question, guys. So as far as when new species are discovered, the person that discovers that species, they claim the right to name that species. So like, if I discovered a species, I could make up any name that I wanted for it. I can make up its genus, and I can make up its species. All right? So if we're looking at the lake darner, what's the scientific name? There it is. You mumbled through, but it works. As far as the mosquito goes, you got it. There you go. So one thing to keep in mind about scientific names. Hey, guys in the back. Put your phone away, please. You're now on the record, me telling you to put the phone away.
Oh, don't you worry, I've been there myself.
So, what I want you to understand, when you are writing a scientific name, there are two ways to write it, which, yes, you are going to have to understand those two ways. One is, you notice that how these are written, they are in italics. So one way to write a scientific name is in italics. Now, there's a little bit more to it than just italics. You are going to notice that if we're looking at the genus, what can we tell about the first letter of the genus? It's capitalized. What can we tell about the first letter of the species?
Not capitalized.
Lowercased. All right, so if you are going to write it in italics, which generally if you're handwriting it, you're not going to write it in italics. I'm going to show you what you do if you're handwriting it. But if you're on the computer and you hit the italicized button, you are going to uppercase, the first letter in the genus, and you are going to lowercase first letter in the species. All right, so that's one way to write the scientific name. The other way is to underline. So if we wanted to write, I'm going to write that down here, we can underline. if we're going to underline, these rules apply. Uppercase, the first letter of the genus, lowercase, the first letter of the species. But if I wanted to write the scientific name for humans in the underline method, I'm going to write it out, and then I'm just going to throw some lines under it. There it is. That's how there's two ways to write scientific names. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think scientific names are important within the community of scientists? Okay, sure, based on the scientific classification scheme, yes. But what about this? What about if you go, we're going to call it a gray wolf. We call it a gray wolf in English. If we go to Spain, are they going to call it a gray wolf? No. They're going to say it in Spanish. If we go to China, they're going to say it in Mandarin. All right? However, this gives a common language among scientists where if you were to say Homo sapiens in any language, guess what? They'll know exactly what you mean. See? All right. Let's talk about this good-looking man here. This guy's awesome. So, Carolus Linnaeus, he was, I'm going to wait until it's quiet, thank you. He was the Swedish botanist that came up with this two-name classification system called binomial nomenclature. Binomial, bi means two names, naming system. Nomenclature is naming system. So two-name naming system. That's what he came up with. That is the genus and the species. Put those together, that's a scientific name for an organism. Now, before him, guys, he came up with these levels: the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Before him, there was a system that Aristotle had created where he only put the two kingdoms were plant and animal. That's it. And then animals, water living, air living, land living. That was his classification system. So, didn't really work. Because what do you say about birds? Yeah, well, birds do fly, but they also can be on the ground. So there's lots of things that didn't fit in. So that's why Carolus Linnaeus came in. His classification system is what we use today, and that's why he is known as the father of modern classification. Okay? So he came up with groupings were based on shape and structure, and he used 7 different groupings or levels, which is what we are talking about. The kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So, kingdom, the largest, most general group. I guess you can throw, some people will argue that you can throw another level up here. Anyone know what level might go above kingdom? D.
Starts with D.
Mm-hmm. Domain. All right. So there are 3 possible domains. You guys can think of it. Let me put it this way. I'm going to have you tell me what the 3 domains are. Beginning of the school year, we talked about the 2 main types of organisms based on their cell type, their cell structure. One had a nucleus, one didn't. Good. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So, one domain are eukaryotes. That's one domain. Now, the prokaryotes get split into 2 different domains. You guys remember? Now, it's not protists. Prokaryotes, guys, remember, prokaryotes, they don't have a nucleus or they don't have any membrane-bound organelles. Good. Bacteria. There are 2 main groupings of bacteria. Who remembers what those are? Yes. Lovely. Perfect. Archaebacteria and eubacteria. Fantastic. So these are the 3 possible domains. Now, kingdom, underneath domain, it's the largest classification. So, I don't care what we're talking about. If we're talking about the animal kingdom, look at this: insect, fish, snakes, bird, pig, dog, panda, black bear, grizzly bear, worms, starfish, sponges. All right? Those are all within the animal kingdom. Now, if we want to separate those even more, we go down to phylum. Now, I'm just giving you specific examples of these levels here, there are more than just what I have up here. Phylum Chordata. Let me ask you this. What is the main characteristic that you think animals within that phylum Chordata have?
Well, I have
Hold your question for 1 second. Jack. Nope, Chordata is not walking on 4 limbs. What's the first term in there you see? Spinal cord. You have a spinal cord. So any organism with spinal cord would share that phylum of Chordata. That's why, guys, you see in there, I guess none of insects got taken out. Insects don't have spinal cords. All right, so they will not share that same phylum as Chordata. If we want to narrow it down even more, down to class, there is a class called Mammalia. What are mammals? Good. So mammals, some of the characteristics are hair, give birth to live young, have mammary glands, so produce milk for their young, are warm-blooded. So therefore, all of those that share those characteristics, pig, dog, panda, black bear, grizzly bear, those are going to be in the class Mammalia. You notice that fish got taken out, snake got taken out, bird got taken out because they don't share the characteristics of mammals. And again, we're going to narrow it down now. Carnivora, as far as the order goes. What do you think? Carnivores. What do carnivores do? Eat meat. Dog, panda, black bear, grizzly bear. All right? Now we're narrowing it down even more. Ursidae, just because I have been studying biology for a while, I know that this is the bear family. So therefore, panda, black bear, grizzly bear. Genus is Ursus. Black bear and grizzly bear share that same genus. Species is Horribilis. So therefore, no other organism, guys, in the world is going to share a species. So Ursus horribilis is the scientific name for the grizzly bear. All right? Andre, what's your question? Pandas are not marsupials. Marsupials mean they can tuck their young into a pouch.
kangaroo.
Swear, let me look it up. I'm telling you, pandas are marsupials.
Pandas are not marsupials.
If I can prove you wrong.
If you can prove me wrong, I will shake your hand and say congratulations. All right. So, kingdom, phylum. Why is this so slow? Class, order, family,
You owe me a handshake.
genus, species. Okay? There is a way for you to remember these terms. You can come up with them. King Philip came over for green soup. You can make up your own. I don't care.
Scheuch, which type of panda?
Okay, we're not having this conversation right now about pandas. So, I don't care what you come up with, but I will give you, oops, let's go back. You may want to write this down, guys. King Philip.
Did we learn this in 8th?
You sure did. You sure did.
Oh, right, you used to teach it.
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. An easy way to help you remember what those terms are. Okay? So any questions with this very quick introduction on classification? Remember, it's based on similarities. So if we're hey guys. Based on the bigger the category or classification in kingdom, more organisms will fit in there. Phylum, it's going to narrow it down. Remember, there's different types, there's different phylums. Phylas, I should say. Chordata is just one phylum. Anything with a spinal cord will fit under that or underneath that classification level. So it's all about how similar organisms are. All right? So any questions with this? All right, if there are no questions, we're going to move on to our next activity.